So let's talk about the Sliquifier. When Die Rise was first released on Black Ops 2, the Sliquifier was incredibly overpowered. It was able to do infinite damage, meaning it could kill on any round, and it was able to kill an entire round's worth of zombies in only a single shot. Treyarch kind of went a little too far with that one, and shortly after the map was released, the Sliquifier was patched. Now, some of you might be aware that there's actually a way to unpatch the Sliquifier. If you shoot this sign outside of the sushi room 10 times, the Sliquifier will revert back to its unpatched version. Now, some of you might be watching this and thinking, yeah, of course, I already knew that. Except it's completely wrong. It doesn't actually unpatch the Sliquifier, at least not in the way that we all think. In order to understand why it doesn't work the way we think it does, let's talk about what the patch actually did. In this footage here, I'm using a mod that actually reverts the Sliquifier back to its day one form. So this is the true unpatched Sliquifier. There's 3 things to note about the way this weapon works. Firstly, you can see here that I'm on round 102, and I'm having no problem killing the zombies with the Sliquifier. The day 1 Sliquifier did infinite damage, so it was able to kill zombies on any round. The second thing that you'll note is that when I shoot the initial shot, there's a puddle that spawns in on the ground where that shot landed, but no other puddles spawn beyond that first puddle. And the only way to make more puddles spawn is to shoot the ground more times with the Sliquifier. This actually makes it incredibly easy to train up the zombies and get an extremely long chain like you see here. Because there's no puddles on the ground, it's easy to control where the zombies are going and get the chain going all the way. Lastly, with this version of the Sliquifier, you're able to switch to any other weapon you have and still keep the Sliquifier chain going. So you can see here, if I switch to my M1911, the Sliquifier doesn't stop killing zombies. Now let's compare that to this footage, which is on the latest patch. There are 3 notable changes that were made with this patch. Firstly, what you'll see is after I shoot the initial Sliquifier shot, the zombies are continuously dropping more goo all over the floor. This makes it much more difficult to get a long chain going because it's harder to control where the zombies are going. They're sliding all over the place and they're spawning more goo every time they get killed. Secondly, you'll notice that I'm no longer able to put away my Sliquifier. If I do, the chain that I had going will basically instantly end. Lastly, and most importantly, the latest patch version of the Sliquifier actually stops being a one-shot kill on round 100. You can see here that I'm past round 100 and already it's becoming much harder to get a chain going because the Sliquifier is making crawlers. The higher round above round 100 that you're on, the less effective the Sliquifier will become, and eventually it will become completely useless. Those are the 3 changes that were made with this patch. Now, going back to the first point, I mentioned that the zombies continuously drop goo on the ground, which of course makes it much harder to train the zombies with the Sliquifier. That being said, if you think about it, one would imagine that this makes it much easier to camp with the Sliquifier, because if you're camping and the zombies are continuously sliding on the goo that they're creating, it's easier because they're gonna have a harder time chasing you. That's where Treyarch was actually one step ahead. Treyarch basically coded in a failsafe to make it difficult to train and to camp. If too many zombies are dying in the exact same spot, or if the goo persists on the same spot on the ground for too long, eventually the zombies will stop creating goo and start chasing after you. That forces you to have to use more ammo and use your ammo to create more goo on the ground, which forces you to be more on your toes while you're camping, and you can't just AFK through a whole round. This feature will be relevant in my next point. So let's talk about that sign again. Why do so many people think that shooting the sign unpatches the Sliquifier? Well, let's look at what it actually does. Remember earlier how I said that if the goo persists in the same spot for too long, that the zombies would stop dropping goo? Well, basically, if you shoot this sign a bunch of times, the game gets confused because the goo just sticks to the sign forever and doesn't fall anywhere, even after it disappears off of the sign. That means that for the rest of the game, after you shoot the sign, the zombies no longer drop extra goo beyond the first puddle. So that is just like how it was on the pre-patch version. Basically, it does revert one of the changes, in that because there's less puddles on the ground, it is easier to train with the zombies. However, it's important to remember that shooting the sign does not revert all of the changes. It doesn't allow you to switch weapons, and it doesn't allow you to kill zombies with the sliquifier past round 100. The only thing that reverts is the puddle mechanics. So you might be wondering, if it doesn't actually unpatch the sliquifier, why do we call it unpatching the sliquifier when we shoot the sign 10 times? Honestly, I have no idea why that was the name we came up with as a community, since obviously it's caused a ton of confusion over the years, but that's just what we call it. We call it unpatching the sliquifier because it reverts one of the changes. Maybe it should have a different name, but oh well. Now the biggest question is, should you still shoot the sign and unpatch the sliquifier even if it actually doesn't make the gun overpowered like we thought? And the answer is yes, you really should. It's extremely helpful regardless of whether you're camping or whether you're training, because the more goo that the zombies are dropping, the more annoying any strategy is going to be, even if you're camping or if you're training. Doing this makes it much easier to chain the zombies and get to at least round 100, so you have more control over how your strategy is going to play. Anyway, I would like to say that this myth is busted. I know that this was a shorter video, and I'm going to be doing more of these types of videos where I debunk common misconceptions about zombies. If you guys like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and also share this video with your friends who don't have any idea of how unpatching the sliquifier actually works. Also, if you have any common myths or misconceptions about zombies that you would like to see me debunk, please leave them down in the comments. If you have some interesting ones, I'll be doing more zombie science videos in the near future with some of your suggestions. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.